Hello, my friends. Take my namaskar. This time I came with a new video, and the name of the video is Bharat and the Bhagawad Gita. Bharat Desh or Bhagawad Gita. For quite some time, I'm concerned with a question, and the question is very interesting too. The question is whether the Bhagavad Gita represents Bharat totally, its ancientness, its present, and its future. Let me repeat the whole question again. Whether the Bhagavad Gita represents India, its spirituality, its present and future aspirations, in its totality. So this question we will try to delve in this discussion. Hope it will give you interest too. I am Dr. Subrata, your host, a scholar, and a lover of Indian spirituality. So, at the very beginning, I will try to examine a question. The question is, which will come obviously, the question is, what is the necessity of bringing such a book? And the effort of bringing it in the heart and mind of India, in the heart and mind of Bharat. What's the necessity? Well, number one, if all Christian countries have Bible as their book of inspiration, if Islamic countries have their Quran as their inspirations and encouragement, if even communist countries have the Communist Manifesto or the Red Book as their inspirational guidebook, so what is the harm if India brings and takes and presents, establish the Bhagavad Gita in the heart and mind of India, Bharat? Well, I will repeat the word Bharat, this because there is a reason. Because when I'm considering the Bhagavad Gita, and at the same time when I'm considering the ancientness, the ancient culture, the rich culture, only the word Bharat represents it totally. Because India, the word India, is a later development. It has hardly a history of 300 years during the British Raj and afterwards. So only Bharat suits this ancient culture. Only this word Bharat can represent what my actual contention is. Now the second point, this is very important, the identity crisis. Perhaps you are seeing that the whole Europe nowadays is burning for a single reason of identity crisis. From Denmark to Netherlands, Germany, France, and even United Kingdom. Identity crisis because of the immigration. Millions of people from Islamic countries, particularly from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and from African countries, they came, in most cases illegally, they entered into these countries and creating havoc, particularly in the law and order problem. They are creating law and order problem. And people there start thinking that enough is enough. We no longer need multiculturalism, because in a way multiculturalism has failed. We want to go to our own national values. We want to go to our original values of the country, because each and every country has got their original values. You cannot deny that. And they want to return to that values. My point is that if this be so, why not we prepare ourselves for that and to solve that permanently? Why not? And establishment of the Bhagavad Gita will help that in a very great way. Next, if Ashok Chakra, Senghol very recently, and the motto, national motto like Satyameva Jayate and so on, can be included in our national activities. Why not Bhagavad Gita? Further, This is very important. Bhagavad Gita is not a book of religion. It's a spiritual book, a book that encourages, a book that inspires. This question arises because of the word secularism. I know, and you know too, that whenever you try to establish this kind of book on the heart and mind of people, on the heart and mind of the Bharat, then this question will come. The question of secularism. Let me say a few words, though it can be discussed in a very big way. Let me say a few words. First of all, secularism is redundant. Why redundant? Because the Constitution itself is secular. It has given you liberty, equality, fraternity in the preamble. It has given you freedom of justice, freedom of religion, freedom of expression. So what's the necessity of bringing another word without a verse in the 42nd Amendment in 1976 during emergency, which was later declared illegal? So the very inclusion is very motivated, very intentional, very calculated. The word can be deleted. Though the government will think over it, Parliament will think over it, but the point is that it created more dispute, more disturbances in the government machinery, in the national machinery. And particularly, and this is very important, it has created more pain in the heart and mind of the majority. When minorities, particularly single minority, is taking its full advantage. And there is a fear also. When I utter the word, the crisis of identity, the identity crisis, in a very subtle way, the crisis of identity also involved into it, inhere into it, today or tomorrow. It will create identity crisis. Because already it has been seen that there is the fear of demographic change, which may lead to political change and identity crisis in India, which you all know, which you all aware of. The point is, the time is to think over it and to put the Bhagavad Gita on the heart and mind of Bharat. This is the one part of argument. There is another part, which is the basic. The main question, the main issue is that whether Bhagavad Gita represents Bharat totally, fully, which no one book represents in that way. Is it so? Let we consider it gradually, point by point, as far as possible. The first point is, what is the soul and spirit of India? What is the soul and spirit of Bharat? This is a very important question. Of course, the soul and spirit of Bharat is spirituality. It's not my word, it's the word of great Indians, from Tagore to Vivekananda and so on. The spirit of Bharat, the soul of Bharat, is spirituality. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. The truth is one. We call it differently. Different people call it differently. This is the soul. Bhagavad Gita tries to show relationship between Atma and Paramatma, soul and the Supreme Soul. And not only that, it is expressed, described the indestructible, imperishable nature of the self. That Ayang Atma ajo nitya shashyato vayang purano nahannate hannamane sharire. Bhagavad Gita is out and out spiritual. It has seen life totally, completely, not superficially. If the Constitution of India provides you the material aspect, the material side of the country, do's and don'ts, separation of powers, rights and duties. Bhagavad Gita gave you the other part, the spiritual part. It takes the whole life totally. Consider the whole life totally. It is the spiritual part of the Bharat. It is the spiritual aspect of Bharat. So it has got an importance. Secondly, what is the motive and attitude of Bharat? Bharat as a whole, all is praised. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Let all be happy. Let all be healthy. This has been repeatedly expressed by Bharat in different occasions. Now, what Bhagavad Gita said, Adveshta sarve bhutanang maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara shama dukkha shukha kshami. He who has no ill will to any being, who is friendly and compassionate, free from egoism and self-sense, even-minded in pain and pleasure, and patient, and very much patient, Shami. If I repeat the whole sloka again, Adveshta, no hate, Sarva Bhutana, to everybody, to everybody, even creatures, Adveshta Sarva Bhutana, Maitra, Karuna Evacha, friendship, fraternity, and you must be kind to all. Nirmamo nirahankara, selflessness, and sameness in dukkha, sama dukkha, sukha, shami. You should be same, balanced view. You must have a balanced view, balanced vision towards the sorrows and worries, the sorrows and pains of life. Samadarshita, that's very important of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, which is perhaps, in my view, the most important of the Bhagavad Gita, is that the approach towards life and living, which India always praised, Bharat always praised, and needs to be praised in coming days also. It is the aim of Bharat. Truth, justice, righteousness, and seeing everybody, everything in a balanced manner, sameness. Particularly in Bhagavad Gita, truth and justice, truth and righteousness, very important. And you all know that famous sloka, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthyanam adharmasya tadatmanam siyamya. Bhagavan's message to Arjuna, at the same time to whole humanity, and of course to the people of Bharat. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati. Whenever there is a crisis of dharma, righteousness, truth, I'll appear myself. What for? He said, Dharma Sangstapanarthaya Shambhavami Yuge Yuge. To establish righteousness, to establish dharma, I will appear, emerge. But the main makshad, the main point, the main arch, the main promise of Bhagavan Krishna is that he will emerge whenever there is a crisis of religion. Religion in the sense, dharma, nyaya, justice, truth, righteousness. Whenever there is a crisis, he will emerge. He will appear himself in very many ways. This is the promise of Bhagavan. And what is the attitude? What he said about that each and every person must have this attitude towards life. Shukha dukkhe samay kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato juddhaya jijvashva naibam papam abhavshasi. He said, your approach should be Shammak Drishti, balanced view to both sorrows and worries of life, to both victory and defeat. And in this way, if you work, This is the principal work, the principle of duty. If you work in this principle, in this way, then there won't be any vice for you. Shukha dukkhe shame kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato juddhaya. Do your war. Juddhaya jujvashva naibam papam abapshashi. Well, this approach towards life and towards world is very important, and Bharat and the people of Bharat, the majority people, must understand it. Because we were enslaved for hundreds of years, because we do not understand. We didn't give enough notice to Bhagavan Krishna's message. Bhagavan Krishna said nearly 5,000 years ago. And that's why it's very ancient too. And it represents the ancientness of Bharat. I remember this time a poem of my own where I said, and it would be interesting for you to listen, because I want that people should understand Bhagavan Krishna in totality, not partially. Not only bhakti, prem, ahimsa. And what's the total message? यारो तुम सिर्फ कृष्ण के बांसुरी की धुन ही सुनते हो, कभी कभार सुदर्शन चक्र की बन बन भी सुना करो। केवल श्री राधे और गोपियों में कृष्ण को ढूंढते हो, कभी कभी कुरुक्षेत्र की गीता ज्ञान में भी ध्यान दिया करो। यारो तुम सिर्फ कृष्ण के बांसुरी की धुन ही सुनते हो, कभी कभार सुदर्शन चक्र की बन बन भी सुना करो। This represents actually the tragedy of India, because we have lost many years in a misunderstanding way the message of the Bhagavad Gita. We have given our many years for bhakti, prem, ahimsa. There is nothing wrong in it, but it should be understood that if you give total of your existence towards bhakti, prem and all that, if you think Bhagavan Krishna's message is this, you are missing one thing. You are missing your freedom. You are missing your liberty. Because without Shakti, bhakti, even truth cannot exist. If there is no soldier in the borderline, you cannot have peace in your house, in your society. This needs to be understood. And that's my message too. We need to understand Bhagavad Gita in its totality. In a way, we want to understand Krishna's message in its totality. I remember, and I love to quote that sloka where Krishna motivating Arjuna. Motivating Arjuna, and sometimes I think it's a rebuke to Arjuna. When Arjuna becomes paralyzed in the war field, he said, Klebhyang mashmgam partha, naitattajupapaddhati, khudrang, ridadurballang, takto tishta parantapa. O Parantapa, O Arjuna, this is not the time of all this pettiness of heart, unmanliness, these bogus talks. This is the time of war. You should do war, because you are fighting to establish righteousness. Your petty heart, your petty issues have got no meaning. This is the heart of Bhagavan Krishna's teaching. And this heart needs to be understood by Indians, particularly the majority Indians. Look, enough of bhakti, enough of all that. Without Shakti, without power, strength, and at the same time I must bring without prosperity, without development. All these things are meaningless. We need to understand that. And Bhagavad Gita gives you that understanding. Now, if this be so, which Bharat always preached, bhakti, prem, of course it has, but without power, without strength, without Shakti, all other good qualities of life won't function. Even truth has to wait Satta has to wait for Shakti to come. Otherwise, Shakti cannot manifest itself. That's the basic, that's the meaning, that's the basic truth we Indians, majority of the people, should understand. And what is the quality of the Bhagavad Gita? What is the quality of Bhagavan Krishna's teaching? This is also important. Bhagavan Krishna in his teachings never said good words only to the believers. Never said that he is merciful, that he is going to protect only the believers and not the non-believers. He never made this kind of distinction. He said his Bani, his message for everybody, believers and non-believers. Look how Bhagavan Krishna has taught Arjuna in this regard. This is very important, and this is the basic, feeling, the basic trend of Bharat. The freedom of choice, as Bhagavan Krishna has said. Iti te jnanam akhyatam gujyad gujyatarang maya bimisreitat sheshena jatheshvashi tathakuru. I have given you the most secret of all secrets. Now it's up to you what decision, what choice you will make. This freedom of choice has been given to all, not only to Arjuna. This is the nature of Indian culture, giving freedom. And Arjuna has been given freedom by Sri Krishna. As he said, I have given you the most secret of all secrets. Now it's up to you what choice you will make when everything has been said. Let us take an oath to bring Bhagavad Gita into the center stage, center place of Bharat. That's very important to avoid the future identity crisis, to avoid a wrong feeling, a wrong art of living, a wrong kind of philosophy, accepting. At the same time, let us place our society, let us place India in the huge canvas of Indian culture, in the huge canvas of the Bhagavad Gita, which represents the ancient rich Indian culture, and to see ourselves in that culture. That's a great achievement. That's a soft power that gives a kind of sukoon, a kind of peace, which nowadays millions of people are searching to see. Each and everyone wants to see into the canvas of their ancient culture. That's a deep cry of the human soul. And when we have got this possibility, choice, why don't you take it? Why don't you make this book a national book, a Rashtriya Granth? This is not a new demand. This is a demand made by many efficient people, many prominent people. But my consideration is that we can think over it. The parliament, the government can think over it. Before we end, I love to quote the last concluding lines or the last sloka of the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, the realization of the Sanjaya, wherein he is many things of life. He said, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Sri Vijaya Bhuti Dhruvaniti Matir Mama. But there is the existence of the supreme intelligence, supreme wisdom, and at the same time, where there is the existence of Arjun like Karmavir, the warrior, the best archer. When these two mingle, when these two come together, wisdom and duty, wisdom and work, wisdom and efficientness, that man, that country always prosper, always becomes victorious, always develop. If we really love our country, if we want our country Bharat needs to be developed, needs to develop more, needs to be strong enough, because without strength nobody listening your words, nobody cares you. That's our only message, and that's the message that we want to give in this video talk, that let Bhagavad Gita come in the central place of Bharat. Let it becomes a national book, a Rashtriya Granth. That will be our dream coming true. Thank you very much for listening. And I will request you, if you find it interesting, nice, please comment and give a likeness if you like so. Thank you again. Thank you very much.